The cold metal walls of the alien laboratory, hummed with soft blue light strange machines, lined the room there. Screens pulsing with unreadable symbols in the center of the chamber, stood a large glass pod filled with a misty silver liquid inside it. A young human man named Tom slowly opened his eyes. Tom groaned, his body feeling heavy. His last memory was of being outside his home, looking at the sky, when a sudden bright flash took him. Now he was in this strange place wearing only a simple white suit. The air smelled different, crisp, but unfamiliar. He tried to move, but the glass pod held him in place. A figure stepped forward. She was tall, with smooth violet skin that shimmered under the lab's lights. Her large golden eyes studied him with curiosity. She was not human, she was an alien, but unlike anything Tom had ever imagined. "You are awake," she said in a calm, melodic voice. Tom's breath caught his throat. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but his words stuck. The alien tilted her head, observing him. "My name is Zur," she continued. "I am a scientist of the Alari race. You were chosen for an experiment. Do not be afraid." Experiment. Tom finally managed to speak. His voice was horror. "UN uncertain. What kind of experiment?" Zira pressed a button on a floating panel, and the glass pod slid open with a soft hiss. Tom stepped out, his legs shaky but functioning. Zira reached out as if to steady him, but hesitated, retracting her hand. "You are human," she said almost to herself. "Your species has something unique, something we must understand." Tom frowned. "Understand what?" Zur gestured toward a glowing screen. It displayed images of different species from across the galaxy. "Zar are advanced in many ways, but we lack one thing: biological adaptability. Our methods of reproduction are limited." Tom's mind spun. "Wait, are you saying?" Zira nodded. "Humans are different. Your kind is resilient, able to adapt to harsh conditions, able to avoid. We must learn why." Tom crossed his arms. "And you think I can help you?" Zur stepped closer, her golden eyes gleaming. "Yes, you are part of an experiment that could change everything, but first you must understand this is not just for science, it is for survival." Tom inhaled deeply. The situation was beyond anything he had ever imagined. He was standing in an alien lab, speaking to an alien scientist about the survival of an entire species. "Do I have a choice?" he asked. Zira studied him for a moment before answering. "Yes, you are not a prisoner, Tom, but if you stay, you will be part of something extraordinary." Tom's heart pounded. He had no idea what lay ahead, but one thing was clear: his life would never be the same again. Tom took a deep breath, his mind racing with thoughts. He was on an Ian ship, standing in front of a tall, violet-skinned scientist named Zira. Everything felt like a dream, but the cool metal floor beneath his bare feet told him this was real. Zira watched him with calm golden eyes, waiting for his answer. She had said he had a choice: to leave or to stay and take part in an experiment that could change her species forever. Tom ran a hand through his short brown hair, trying to think clearly. "If I say no, will you send me back to Earth?" he asked. Zur hesitated. "Returning you is not impossible, but it is complicated. We took you using advanced technology, and bringing you back would take time. If you refuse, you will be placed in a safe environment until a return process is arranged." Tom frowned. He wasn't sure if she was telling the full truth, but even if she was, what would happen while he waited? Would he be locked up somewhere? Would they forget about him? "And if I say yes," he asked. Zur stepped closer, her long robe flowing around her. "Then you will learn about us. You will experience things no human has before. You will be part of history." Tom's, he was just an ordinary guy, not a scientist, not a soldier. Why him? But at the same time, something inside him was curious. If he went back, no one would believe his story. But if he stayed, he could witness something incredible. After a long moment, he looked up at Zira and nodded. "All right, I'll do it." A strange expression crossed Zira's face, something between satisfaction and relief. She pressed a button on a floating panel, and the walls of the lab shifted. A new doorway appeared, leading into a long hallway glowing with soft blue light. "Follow me," she said. Tom hesitated for only a second before Stepping forward, the doors slid shut behind him, sealing his decision. The hallway led to a new chamber larger than the lap inside. Strange devices floated in the air, scanning and shifting like they were alive. In the center of the room was a platform with a transparent screen above its symbols, and data moved across it too fast for Tom to understand. Zero walked to the platform and gestured for Tom to step onto it. This is a medical scanner. We must analyze your body's structure before we begin the experiment. Tom hesitated. You're not going to poke me with needles, right? Zero raised an eyebrow. Needles? No, our technology is far more advanced. Tom sighed and stepped onto the platform. Instantly, a soft hum filled the air, and a beam of golden light washed over him. He felt a slight tingling, wouldn't know pain. Within seconds, the screen above began displaying data. Zero's eyes widened slightly as she examined the results. Fascinating. What is? Tom asked. Zero looked at him as if seeing him differently. Your body is highly adaptable, more than I expected. It is no wonder humans are so resilient. Tom crossed his arms. Well, we do our best. Zero pressed a few buttons, and the scanner deactivated. The golden light disappeared, and the platform lowered slightly. Your results confirm my theory. Zur said human biology may hold the key to solving our greatest problem. Tom stepped down. And what exactly is that problem? Zur hesitated, then motioned for him to follow her again. I will show you. She led him through another hallway, this one darker, with tall glass tubes on either side. Tom squinted as he walked past them and froze. Inside the tubes were figures similar to Zura, but unmoving. Their skin was pale, their eyes closed. They weren't dead, but they weren't awake either. Tom's mouth went dry. Who are they? Zerk's voice was quieter. Now our kind, but they are incomplete, born without the ability to survive long. Tom turned to her. And you think I can help change that? Zira met his gaze. Yes. And if we succeed, you will be remembered as the one who saved my species. Tom swallowed hard. He had agreed to stay, but now he truly understood this wasn't just an experiment. This was something far bigger than himself, and there was no turning back now. Tom stood frozen, staring at the silent figures inside the glass tubes. Their violet skin was dull, their bodies still, as if trapped in an endless sleep. A strange feeling crept through them, a mix of fear and curiosity. Zira watched him closely, her golden eyes calm, but serious. Now you see why this experiment is important, she said. Tom swallowed hard. But what's wrong with them? Zero walked to one of the tubes and placed her hand on the glass. They are our future, but they are incomplete. Tom frowned. Incomplete? What do you mean? Zur turned to him. For many generations, our species has struggled to reproduce. We can create life, but it lacks something vital, true energy, true strength. These beings in the tubes were created artificially, but they cannot survive for long. Tom took a step closer, looking at the sleeping figures. So they're alive, but they won't wake up. Zira nodded. They are fragile, unable to grow beyond this state, no matter how much knowledge we have. We cannot fix this flaw. That is why we need you. T felt his chest tighten. And how exactly am I supposed to help? Zira studied him for a moment before speaking. Your biology is different. Humans are unique in the way they adapt, heal, and pass on their traits. If we can understand that process, we may be able to strengthen our own kind. Tom exhaled slowly. It was a lot to take in. So what's the plan? Are you going to take my DNA or something? Zira pressed a button on a floating panel. A soft hum filled the room as a hidden door slid open. Beyond it was another chamber, smaller and filled with glowing symbols on the walls. No, Tom, Zur said, this will require something more personal. Tom hesitated. Personal? How? Zira gave him a small knowing smile. Come, I will explain everything. Tom followed Zira into the new chamber. The air was warmer here. The lights dimmer. A large circular platform sat in the middle, surrounded by floating silver devices. Zur turned to him. This is the heart of our research, a place we can truly study the connection between species. Tom crossed his arms. Still not answering my question, Zur. Chuck L. softly, your body carries something special, something we do not fully understand, yet our goal is to see If a connection between our species can create new life in a natural way, Tom's eyes widen. Wait, are you saying? Zira nodded. Yes, the experiment will involve creating a bond between us, a deep one. Only then can we see if our species can truly become one. Tom took a step back, his mind sp. This is crazy. Zira remained calm. I understand your hesitation, but this is not just about science, it is about survival. If we fail, my kind may not have a future. Tom rubbed his temples. He had expected tests, maybe even weird alien injections, but this was something completely different, and yet he couldn't ignore the strange excitement bubbling inside him. The idea of being part of something so huge, so important. It was terrifying, but also incredible. He looked at Zira, seeing the hope in her golden eyes. She truly believed this was the answer. After a long pause, he exhaled deeply. All right, what do we do next? Zirk's expression softened. We begin together. Tom had no idea what awaited him, but one thing was clear: his life was about to change forever. Tom's heart pounded as he stood in the dimly lit chamber. The air felt heavy, filled with a strange energy he couldn't explain. Zira watched him with her golden eyes, calm but expectant. Are you certain you want to continue? She asked, her voice smooth but serious. Tom hesitated. A part of him wanted to run, to find a way back home, but another part, his curiosity, kept him rooted in place. He had already come this far. There was no turning back now. He took a deep breath. Yeah, I'm in. What happens next? Zira's lips curled into a small smile. She stepped forward and gestured to the circular platform in the center of the room. Lie down here. The process must begin with a connection, one that allows us to synchronize our biology. Tom frowned. Synchronize how? Zira walked to a floating console and pressed a few glowing symbols. The platform hummed, and a soft blue light pulsed beneath its surface. Our technology will create a mental and physical link between us. It will allow us to share energy, to see if a fusion between our species is possible. Tom swallowed hard. And you're sure this is safe? Zira tilted her head. Nothing in science is ever certain, but I will be with you the entire time. Tom sighed. He had already made his decision. Slowly, he stepped onto the platform and lay down. The surface was unexpectedly soft, molding to his body like liquid fabric. Above him, the ceiling shifted, revealing a swirling pattern of lights. Zira moved to his side and placed her hand on a small silver device attached to the platform. Close your eyes, she instructed. Tom did as she said. A moment later, he felt a strange warmth spread through his body. It wasn't unpleasant, just different. It was as if something inside him was waking up. Then suddenly, he wasn't in the room anymore. Tom found himself standing in an endless white space. There were no walls, no floor, just light stretching in all directions. He turned around and saw Zir standing a few feet away, her violet skin glowing softly. Where are we? Tom asked, his voice echoing. We are inside the connection, Zir said, a shared space between our minds and bodies. This is where we will begin the true experiment. Tom looked down at himself. He felt weightless, as if he could float away at any moment. And what exactly are we supposed to do here? Zir stepped closer. You must allow your body to open to the process. Our energy must mix naturally. Only then can we see if a true fusion is possible. Tom raised an eyebrow. And how do we do that? Zira reached out her fingers just inches from his. Trust me. Tom hesitated, then slowly extended his own hand. The moment their fingers touched, a surge of warmth rushed through him. Images flashed in his mind, strange planets, alien cities, memories that weren't his own. He gasped, What is this? Zirk's voice was gentle. You are seeing my past, my people's history, and I am seeing yours. Tom's mind reeled. He saw glimpses of Earth cities filled with towering buildings, oceans stretching endlessly, children laughing, wars fought, and one he felt Zira's wonder, her fascination with humanity's strength and adaptability. At the same time, he saw her world, the exiliar home planet covered in shimmering forests and glowing rivers. He felt their struggle, their desperation to survive. The connection deepened. His Heartbeat matched hers, their breaths moving in perfect sync, the energy between them grew stronger, forming an invisible thread that linked them together. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the vision faded. Tom's eyes snapped open. He was back on the platform, his body tingling. Zira stood beside him, breathing heavily. She looked at him with wide, surprised eyes. It worked, she whispered. Tom sat up, his head spinning. What just happened? Zira took a deep breath, composing herself. We made a successful bond. I did not expect it to happen so quickly, but your biology responded perfectly. Tom rubbed his temples. So what does this mean? Zira smiled. It means we are one step closer to saving my people. Tom exhaled sharply. He had no idea what he had just unlocked, but one thing was clear: this experiment was far from over. Tom sat on the platform, his body still tangling from the strange experience. His breathing was unsteady, and his mind was filled with images that were not his own. He had seen Zura's past, her world, and her people's struggles, and she had seen his. He looked up at Zur. She was staring at him with an expression he couldn't quite read: curiosity, excitement, maybe even something deeper. It worked, she said again, her golden eyes gleaming. The connection was successful. Tom rubbed his forehead. Yeah, I got that part, but what does it actually mean? Zira walked to the floating console and pressed a few glowing symbols. The air around them shifted, and a soft hum filled the room. Your body responded faster than expected. The link between us is stable. This is a promising result. Tom let out a dry laugh. Great, but I still don't know what just happened to me. Zur turned to him, her expression serious now. We shared energy, thoughts, and memories. It was a test to see if our species are truly compatible. At the deepest level, if the bond had failed, the experiment would have ended here. Tom's stomach tightened, and because it didn't fail, Zira stepped closer. It means we can continue. Tom exhaled slowly. Everything was moving so fast. Just hours ago, he had been living a normal life on Earth, and now he was part of an experiment that could decide the future of an entire alien race. Okay, he said, trying to process everything. What's the next step? Zira studied him for a moment before speaking. Now, we must strengthen the bond. The first connection was only the beginning. To truly test if our species can merge, we must deepen it. Tom raised an eyebrow. How do we do that? Zira pressed another button on the console, and a holographic image appeared in the air. It showed two glowing energy fields, one blue, one gold. As the two fields moved closer, they intertwined, forming a bright pulsing light. This represents us, Zerd explained. Our life energy is now linked, but it is still weak. We must continue to interact, to share more experiences, and to allow the bond to grow naturally. Tom crossed his arms. So you're saying we need to spend time together? Zira nodded. Yes, the more we learn about each other, the stronger the connection becomes. And if the bond reaches full stability, then we will know for sure that our species can merge. Tom sighed. Well, I guess I don't have much of a choice, do I? Zira tilted her head slightly. You always have a choice, Tom, but I believe you are as curious about this as I am. Tom couldn't argue with that. As strange as everything was, a part of him wanted to see where this led. All right, he said, so what exactly do we do now? Zira's lips curled into a small smile. We begin with something simple. Come with me. Tom followed Zerd down a long corridor, the walls glowing with soft blue light. As they walked, he noticed strange symbols appearing and disappearing along the walls, shifting like living creatures. What is this place? Tom asked. This is our knowledge center, Zero replied. It contains all the history, science, and culture of my people. If we are to truly bond, you must understand who we are. Tom frowned. And you already learned about humans through that connection thing? Zira nodded. I have seen glimpses, yes, but there is still much more to understand. They entered a large circular room filled with floating holographic screens. Images of alien cities, strange creature, and massive starships flickered around them. Zira gestured to one of the screens. This is our home world, Zira. Tom watched as the screen displayed a planet covered in shimmering forests, glowing rivers, and Massive futuristic towers that seemed to float above the ground. It was beautiful. But there was something off about it. It looks empty, Tom, said Zira's expression. Darkened because it is our population is shrinking. Many of our kind are unable to survive beyond infancy. If we do not find a solution soon, we may not have a future. Tom felt a strange weight in his chest. He had known their situation was bad, but seeing it like this made it real. So that's why this experiment is so important to you, he said. Zira nodded yes. We are running out of time, Tom. That is why we must see this through. Tom took a deep breath. He had stepped into something much bigger than himself, and now there was no turning back. All right, he said, let's keep going. Zira's golden eyes met his, and for the first time Tom saw something beyond science in them, hope. The experiment had only just begun, and already everything was changing. Tom stood in the knowledge center, surrounded by floating screens displaying the history of the auxiliary. The images shifted and moved like living memories, masses, cities, glowing rivers, and a sky filled with enormous space stations. It was incredible, but there was something haunting about it. Zira stood beside him, watching his reaction closely. This is what we once were, she said, a civilization of explorers, scientists, and thinkers, but now we are facing extinction. Tom frowned. How did it happen? How did your species end up like this? Zira waved her hand, and the floating images changed. They now showed a massive laboratory filled with Sari scientists working with strange, glowing orbs. The scene shifted again, showing a group of newborn Salari in medical chambers, small, fragile, and weak. For centuries, we relied on science to perfect ourselves, Zira explained. We removed weaknesses, enhanced our intelligence, and even extended our lifespan. But in doing so, we disrupted something important, our ability to naturally create new life. Tom watched as the images continued. The auxiliary had advanced technology, but no matter what they did, the new generations were born weaker. Each attempt to fix the problem only made it worse. Your people, they became too perfect, Tom asked. Zur gave a small nod. In a way, yes. We altered ourselves so much that we lost what made us truly alive, and now we are searching for a way to restore what was lost. Tom ran a hand through his hair. And you think humans might have the answer? Zira turned to him. Yes, your kind thrives in ways we do not. You adapt, evolve, and survive even in the harshest conditions. If we can understand the difference between us, perhaps we can find a way to bring life back to my species. Tom let out a deep breath. He had never thought of humans as special before, but hearing Zira say it made him see things differently. All right, he said. So what's the next step? Zira touched a floating control panel, and the room shifted. The screens disappeared, and a new doorway opened in front of them. Come with me, there is more to learn. Tom followed Zira into another chamber, this one smaller and filled with strange glowing plants. The air was warm and had a faint sweet scent. What is this place? He asked. This is a biolab. Zira said. It contains some of the last remaining natural life from our home world. We keep them here, hopping to find a way to restore them. Tom touched one of the glowing leaves. It felt warm and pulsed softly under his fingers, like it was alive. So your planet used to be full of life? Zira nodded yes, but over time much of it faded. Now only a few species remain, and even they are struggling to survive. Tom looked around, feeling a deep sadness. The Auxiliar had built an incredible civilization, but in their search for perfection, they had lost something far more important. And you think this experiment, our bond, might change that? Tom asked. Zira stepped closer. It is our greatest hope. Tom met her golden eyes, feeling the weight of her words. This wasn't just science for her, this was about survival. He took a deep breath and nodded. All right, then let's do whatever we need to do. Zur gave him a small, grateful smile. Then we continue. The experiment was far from over, but Tom was ready. He had come this far, and now he was determined to see it through. Tom stood in the biolab, surrounded by glowing plants that pulsed with faint light. The air was thick with warmth and an unfamiliar scent that made his skin tingle. Across from him, Zira watched closely. Her golden eyes filled with quiet determination. The next phase of the experiment will test the strength of our bond, she said. Tom crossed his arms. You mean that connection thing we did earlier? Zira nodded. Yes, but this time we must push it further. The energy link between us must grow stronger. Tom sighed. All right, how do we do that? Zira gestured to a small circular platform in the center of the room. It was made of the same strange material as the one from before, but this time 2 seats formed from its surface. Sit with me, Zira said. Tom hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward and sat down. The seat molded to his body like liquid fabric, adjusting to his form. Zira sat across from him, her posture calm and steady. She raised her hand, palm facing him. Place your hand against mine. Tom did, as she said, pressing his palm to hers. The moment their skin touched, a soft hum filled the air. The glowing plants around them began to pulse and sync, their colors shifting. Tom felt a strange warmth spreading through his arm, moving up to his chest. It wasn't uncomfortable, but it was intense. What's happening? He asked. Our life energy is aligning, Zira said. Your body and mind are learning to communicate on a deeper level. Tom's breathing slowed as a wave of calm washed over him. Suddenly, he wasn't just feeling his own heartbeat, he could feel hers, steady and strong. His thoughts drifted, and just like before, flashes of memories filled his mind. He saw the Exari home world again, but this time it wasn't empty. He saw children playing in glowing fields, families gathered around strange floating structures, and a sky filled with shimmering lights. It was beautiful and full of life. Then the images changed. He saw destruction, cities, abandoned forests fatting the once vibrant rivers turning dark. The Exilor were vanishing, their numbers shrinking. With each passing generation, a deep sadness filled him, but it wasn't just his own, it was Zara's. Tom blinked, realizing that her emotions were flowing into him through their bond. He looked at her and saw something he hadn't before. Not just determination, but fear. You're afraid, Tom said softly. Zira's expression remained calm, but he could feel the truth through their connection. Yes, she admitted, if this experiment fails, my people may not have a future. Tom. Mary stepped carefully onto the surface of the alien planet, the ground beneath her feet soft and unfamiliar. The air was thick with the scent of strange plants, their colors shimmering in the light of the distant sun. Her boots crunched on the dust, and her heart raced with excitement. She was the first human to set foot here on a world that had never been explored by her kind. Her mission was clear: negotiate with the Carol, an ancient and powerful alien race. The rest of her crew stood a few steps behind her, scanning the horizon with their equipment. But Mary was the one who had to meet the Carol face to face as the leader of her small exploration team. It was her responsibility to ensure that the first contact went smoothly. The Carol were known across the galaxy for their intimidating strength and their silent, almost mystical ways of communication. They didn't speak like humans did. Instead, their language was a mixture of body gestures and subtle energy pulses, which made communication difficult for outsiders. Mary had studied their ways, but she still wasn't sure if she could truly understand them. Just ahead, a figure appeared from the shadows of the tall alien trees. At first, Mary thought it was a mirage, an optical illusion caused by the harsh, bright light. But as the figure stepped into view, her breath caught in her throat. Zeller, the Carol ambassador, was a towering figure, his body rippling with muscle. His skin shimmered with a faint blue glow, and his eyes, dark and unreadable, seemed to look right through her. His posture was regal, proud. Despite his size and strength, there was an air of calm that surrounded him, as though he had seen all that the universe had to offer and was unshaken by it. Mary tried to steady her nerves as she approached. She had prepared for this moment for months, studying everything she could about the Carol, but seeing one in person was different. He was unlike any being she had ever encountered. His presence was powerful, but there was something else, something in his gaze that made Mary feel both small and strangely important. Sailor, Mary said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. I am Mary, captain of the human exploration vessel Endeavor. It's an honor to meet you. Soar tilted his head Slightly as if he were assessing her, the silence stretched between them for a long moment. Mary had heard that the Carol spoke little, and now she understood why their communication was more about presence than words, about what was unspoken. Finally, Zer's deep voice broke the silence. Human Mary, his words were slow and deliberate, his accent unfamiliar, but they carried weight. Your kind have come to us. Why? My heart skipped a beat. It was a simple question, but she knew how much was riding on her answer. She gathered her thoughts carefully, knowing that Carol valued strength and respect. She could not afford to show weakness. We come in peace, Mary said, her voice firm. We seek to understand your people and establish a bond of friendship. Our mission is to share knowledge and explore new opportunities for both of our races. Zeldar's eyes studied her with an intensity that made Mary feel as if he were seeing through her. His gaze was not unfriendly, but it was calculated. After a long pause, he nodded. Once slowly, peace, a fragile thing, he said, almost as if he were speaking to himself. It is difficult to trust. Mary nodded, understanding the Carol were known for their fierce loyalty, but they also distrusted outsiders. She knew the weight of her words had to be more than just promises. It had to be a demonstration of their shared values. Zaylor motioned for her to follow him, and she did so without hesitation. As they walked, Mary couldn't help but notice how graceful he was despite his massive size. Every movement was controlled, deliberate. It was as if he were walking through a world that was his, and she was merely a guest there. Journey took them deeper into the heart of the alien city. Mary marveled at the towering structures made of materials she had never seen before. They shimmered with a soft glow, and the city seemed to hum with a strange, almost magnetic energy. The Carol, she realized, were not just physically strong. They had mastered technologies that were far beyond human understanding. After a few minutes of silence, Mary spoke again. I have heard much about the Carol and your strength, but I'm sure there is more to your people than what we've been told. Zeller's lips twitched upward, just the slightest hint of a smile. You have much to learn. Human strength is only one part of who we are. Mary smiled back, her curiosity piqued. She had heard stories, but now she had the chance to understand the Carol up close. It was clear that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but Mary was ready to face them, no matter what. As they continued through the city, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much larger than she had ever imagined. Mary followed Sailor through the glowing city, her mind racing with questions. The tall, crystalline buildings around her were unlike anything she had ever seen. They seemed to pulse with life, as though they were alive, breathing in time with the planet's heartbeat. Her boots made a soft sound against the smooth ground as she walked, trying to keep up with the long strides of the Carol. Ambassador Zaylor didn't speak again as they made their way deeper into the city, but Mary could feel his presence beside her. His calmness was both comforting and unsettling. The silence between them stretched out, leaving Mary with only her thoughts for company. Eventually, they reached a large building at the center of the city. It was enormous, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shimmer in the soft light. The doors opened automatically as they approached, revealing a large circular chamber. The walls were lined with strange symbols that Mary couldn't quite make sense of, but she could feel their meaning in the air, heavy with expectation. Zor stopped in the middle of the room and turned to face Mary. This is where we will begin, he said, his voice low and steady. Mary nodded, trying to hide the nerves twisting in her stomach. She had been briefed on the Carol customs, but she still wasn't sure what to expect. Everything she had learned about them had been from a distance, from books and reports. Now she was here in the heart of their world, facing a race whose ways were so different from her own. Begin, she asked, her voice steady, though her heart was beating faster. What exactly do you mean by that? Zer's eyes gleamed with a mix of curiosity and something else, something Mary couldn't quite place. We will test each other's trust, he said simply. Mary raised an eyebrow, confusion washing over her. A test, she asked. What kind of test? A trust game, Zaylor explained. We do not speak much human, but We communicate in other ways. Your task is to understand me, to trust me without. Words. Marai frowned. She had been expecting the diplomatic conversation. Not some sort of silent challenge, but this was the Carol way, she reminded herself. They didn't rely on spoken language like humans did. Instead, they communicated through body language, an energy, something that Mary had heard was deeply powerful, yet difficult to master.